Does the FIA have a different set of rules in which they choose to dish out punishments to different drivers and teams? This is one of the most daunting questions that many people currently have after the Australian Grand Prix fiasco, which saw Carlos Sainz pleading with the FIA for a meeting but being denied. The FIA has been under consistent scrutiny following the events that happened during the 2021 title decider in Abu Dhabi. With eyes firmly planted on every decision maker and speculation of the sport being overregulated, the FIA is still not immune to making mistakes. One of these mistakes is the shift of the third-place trophy from Alonso back to Russell and finally being given back to Fernando Alonso during the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. However, the Australian Grand Prix saw the FIA make enemies with Ferrari during the final 2 laps of the race. Some might argue that there could have been more to be done to look into the Sainz crash, but is this a problem with the FIA, or is Ferrari simply trying to cover up some of their shortcomings when compared to teams like Aston Martin, Red Bull, and Mercedes? Just after the Australian Grand Prix, Spaniard Carlos Sainz was noticeably furious about the race. After what seemed like a tumultuous qualifying session for the team with Maranello, Sainz ended up starting from P5 on the grid, with teammate Leclerc being on the next row at P7. However, things did not turn out well for the Monegasque after being spun out at Turn 1. Fortunately, the Spaniard did maintain his position for a while, having to deal with a sustained onslaught from Stroll throughout the first part of the race. The start also saw the 2 Mercedes drivers take the lead ahead of Verstappen, who managed to slowly claw them back and surpass them. In what Ferrari states to be a disastrous race for the team, things did not feel any easier throughout the race. The constant red flags and crashes meant that only 12 people finished the race, and with drivers like Russell retiring early on, it left the field open for Sainz to perhaps chase a podium. Unfortunately, this was not the case. Upon the second red flag, with only a few laps to go, the Spaniard pulled away and accidentally tagged fellow Spaniard Alonso at Turn 1. Behind, chaos ensued and the 2 Alpine drivers managed to take out each other. This led to a third red flag, which also meant the order was to be re-established before the restart, since the leader did not cross the first sector of the track. After chaos ensued after the third restart of the race, another red flag was shown and the FIA tried to figure out who was at fault. However, they determined a few minutes before the fourth restart that Sainz was at fault and would sustain a 5-second time penalty, which was heavily criticized by the driver, after pleading for it to be discussed after the race. Unfortunately, the penalty dropped the Spaniard out of the points and to 12th place, which was effectively the final spot left on the grid. This left Sainz furious and unwilling to speak to Sky Sports News after the race. But what is Ferrari doing about this? After the 2023 Australian Grand Prix spectacle, Ferrari team principal Frédéric Vasseur mentioned that Ferrari was lodging a petition against the FIA after blaming them for inconsistency. While the Frenchman did not go into the specifics of Ferrari's reasoning, he has hinted that the team feels done in by the inconsistency of the FIA when it comes to penalties. We did the petition for review of the case. We sent it to the FIA. As we're discussing with the FIA, I don't want to disclose any details of this discussion, Vasseur said to Sky Sports. However, anyone watching the race could see that seconds after the Sainz-Alonso incident, Alpine teammates Pierre Gasly and Esteban Ocon were involved in another heavy collision, whilst Williams driver Logan Sargent also ran into the AlphaTauri driver Nick de Vries. By comparing the incidents, we find that the Alonso-Sainz incident sustained minimal damage to both drivers and the cars were still capable of doing the final lap. However, the Gasly-Ocon incident was considered a racing incident, whilst the collision between Sargent and de Vries was not investigated, even though it was far worse than that of the 2 Spanish drivers. The only thing is that about Gasly-Ocon, also Sargent de Vries Turn 1, and the reaction of the stewards was not the same. What we can expect is at least an open discussion with them, also for the good of the sport to avoid to have this kind of decision when you have 3 cases at the same corner and not the same decision, Vasseur said after the race. The Frenchman further explained that he had hopes the FIA would address the Ferrari appeal in the break leading up to the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. However, he noted that the process would be in the hands of the FIA and there is nothing they can do about it. It is worth noting that after the race, the Ferrari team principal did express some sympathy with the FIA and admitted that the stewards did not have the easiest of jobs while referring to the Alonso incident during the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix a few weeks prior. I've been doing this job for 33 years now, and each time that you have a crash on track, I think you have two versions, always with a different feedback and a different outcome depending on the drivers, Vasseur said. But it is clear that more and more teams are becoming frustrated by the FIA, and some might even think that Ferrari is continuing to push this incident as a way of distracting from their subpar car, which has not been competing this year. So, what is next? With the cancellation of the Chinese Grand Prix, there is an unexpected 4-week break before the next race in Azerbaijan. Baku is known for being a controversial race, with safety cars and red flags being prominent over the last 3 seasons, and all the hope is on the FIA to be more consistent during the rest of the 2023 season. The 4-week break also gives the FIA more time to analyze the incident and review the Ferrari petition, of which we have limited information. However, once a case is closed, the FIA cannot reopen the case unless there's more evidence that arises. Ferrari claims they have now more data from the car, which was not available to the FIA during the issuing of the penalty, which remains to be seen if the FIA would give any new attention to this. The FIA has already gained a bad reputation over the past 2 years and is trying to return to a regulatory authority that is respected among drivers. Ferrari has not been without any criticism, and while they have 10% more wind tunnel time than Red Bull, they've not managed to figure out how to improve the car. This season, the team from Maranello has been lagging behind Red Bull, Mercedes and Aston Martin. The team is hoping to make more dents into the lead of the other teams, and using the 4-week break period to sort out some of their issues could help the team get back into the front of the grid. The team is hoping to make more dents into the lead of the other teams, and using the 4-week break period to sort out some of their issues could help the team get back to the front of the grid. With a massive 22-race season ahead, there's plenty of hope for the FIA and Ferrari to get things right this season, but all will be revealed during the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. Let us know in the comments if you think Ferrari will manage to overcome the issues they're facing and if they should start focusing on changing their design for next season. Do you think the FIA has done the right thing, or could they have handled it differently and delayed the process to see what happens after the race? Make sure you like and subscribe to our channel for more F1 content and all the latest news updates from the F1 world. Your support helps us immensely.